Welcome to Aviation Stories Uncovered. In this episode, the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress, the legendary long-range bomber that redefined strategic air power and has remained a cornerstone of military aviation for generations. On April 15, 1952, an enormous 8-engine bomber lifted off on its first flight. Designed at the dawn of the Cold War to carry nuclear weapons deep into Soviet territory if ever called upon. More than 70 years later, in 2026, that same aircraft type remains an active, frontline part of the United States Air Force, with modernization programs already funded and planned to keep it flying well past the year 2050. A lifespan almost entirely without precedent anywhere in the history of military technology. To put that longevity in perspective, a B-52 crew member flying the aircraft today could plausibly be piloting a physical airframe older than their own parents. A genuinely strange thought for a piece of frontline military hardware still considered essential to national defense. The B-52 Stratofortress has a wingspan of 185 feet and a length that varies slightly by model, but runs around 159 feet, powered originally by 8 turbojet engines and, in current form, 8 TF-33 turbofans, with an even newer engine upgrade program already underway to replace those with modern commercial-derived engines for the aircraft's next several decades of planned service. It cruises at speeds up to roughly 650 miles per hour, close to the speed of sound, with an unrefueled range of around 8,800 miles, extended essentially indefinitely with aerial refueling from tanker aircraft. It can carry a payload of up to 70,000 pounds of bombs, cruise missiles, or other munitions, operated by a crew of just 5, remarkably lean for an aircraft of its size and capability compared to earlier bombers requiring far larger crews. In total, 744 B-52s were built across several variants between the early 1950s and early 1960s. And as of the mid-2020s, approximately 76 remain in active service with the United States Air Force. Each original B-52 cost roughly $14 million to build in 1950s dollars, a considerable sum at the time, though the Air Force's current re-engining and modernization program to keep the fleet flying past 2050 represents a multi-billion-dollar investment far exceeding the aircraft's original construction cost many times over, a testament to how much cheaper it remains to modernize a proven, structurally sound airframe than to design an entirely new bomber from scratch. In December of 1972, during the final stages of American involvement in the Vietnam War, the United States launched Operation Linebacker II, an intensive bombing campaign against North Vietnam that became widely known as the Christmas bombing. B-52s, previously used mainly against targets in South Vietnam and Laos, were sent for the first time in massive numbers directly against heavily defended targets around Hanoi and Haiphong, flying into some of the densest surface-to-air missile defenses ever assembled anywhere in the world up to that point. The campaign, though controversial and costly, with a number of B-52s lost to North Vietnamese missiles over 11 nights of bombing, is widely credited by historians with helping bring North Vietnam back to the negotiating table, resulting in the Paris Peace Accord signed just weeks later in January of 1973. For decades during the height of the Cold War, the B-52 formed the backbone of America's Strategic Air Command nuclear deterrent, and during periods of especially high tension, a portion of the B-52 fleet maintained continuous Chrome Dome airborne alert missions, keeping nuclear-armed bombers constantly in the air, around the clock, ready to strike the Soviet Union on short notice if ever ordered to do so by the president. This posture, while it ultimately never resulted in nuclear conflict, also produced several serious accidents over the years involving nuclear weapons aboard airborne or crashed B-52s, including the 1966 Palomares accident in Spain, where a mid-air collision caused 4 hydrogen bombs to fall, contaminating farmland with radioactive material after 2 of their conventional explosives detonated, and the 1968 fuel crash in Greenland, where an onboard fire brought down another nuclear-armed B-52 onto Arctic sea ice, spreading radioactive contamination during the impact. Neither accident produced a nuclear explosion, but both required massive cleanup operations and became sobering, closely studied reminders of the genuine risks inherent to Cold War nuclear strategy and continuous airborne alert missions. In some remarkable cases, a grandfather and later his grandson have both flown the exact same B-52 airframe decades apart. With aircraft remaining in frontline service for more than 70 years, few military weapons systems in history can claim that kind of multi-generational continuity, making it a unique point of pride within the U.S. Air Force's bomber community. Beyond Vietnam, the B-52 has remained in near-continuous conventional combat use across an extraordinary span of American military history, launching some of the first cruise missile strikes of the 1991 Gulf War, flying long-range bombing missions in support of ground troops during the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan, and providing precision close air support over Iraq and Syria in the 2010s, using satellite-guided munitions that its original 1950s designers could scarcely have imagined. This continuous relevance across nearly every major American military engagement of the last 70 years, from the earliest days of the Cold War to conflicts fought with drone-coordinated precision weapons, stands as perhaps the single strongest evidence of just how successfully the airframe's basic design has been able to absorb generation after generation of new technology without ever needing fundamental structural replacement. One of the most famous legends in American aerospace engineering involves the B-52's own origin story. In October of 1948, Air Force officials abruptly told Boeing's design team, who had been developing a large turboprop-powered bomber, that they now wanted a pure jet design instead, and asked for a fresh proposal within days. According to the frequently retold company legend, a small team of Boeing engineers spent that entire weekend locked in a hotel room in Dayton, Ohio, working through the night to sketch an entirely new A-10 jet bomber design from scratch, and reportedly built a small hand-carved model out of a $5 balsa wood kit purchased from a local hobby shop to present alongside their drawings on Monday morning. Whether every detail of that story has grown slightly in the retelling over the decades, the underlying truth remains. The aircraft that would go on to serve for over a century in American service was conceived, in its essential form, in the space of a single frantic weekend. The B-52 was designed in the years immediately following the Second World War specifically, to give the United States a bomber capable of delivering nuclear weapons deep into Soviet territory, as the centerpiece of America's Cold War deterrent strategy, embodying the doctrine that the credible threat of devastating retaliation would prevent the Soviet Union from ever risking a first strike against the United States or its allies. What its original designers likely never anticipated was just how adaptable the airframe would prove to be over time, evolving over decades from a purely nuclear-armed strategic bomber into a versatile conventional bombing platform used in conflicts from Vietnam to the Gulf War to Afghanistan. all while receiving successive rounds of new engines, avionics, and precision-guided weapons systems that have kept fundamentally 1950s-era airframes relevant and lethal deep into the 21st century. A genuinely unmatched story of military engineering longevity.